Joining us now, Democratic representative from Maryland and ranking member of the Committee on Oversight and Government Reform, Congressman Elijah Cummings. Some good news as well. But let's first talk about this. Also with us, the editor of nationalmemo.com, Joe Conason. Can you imagine getting a check for $300 after going through all that? It's pathetic. It's such an insult. And you wonder why there is resentment on so many levels.
Well, they see that the banks got away with murder, literally. You know, it just crimes that were unimaginable. No one's been prosecuted, and they took a lot of money, and now this is the answer. There
were mistakes. I don't really understand what's been fixed, Congressman.
Nothing has been fixed.
Oh, okay.
That's the problem. The regulators in this case spent so much time trying went into the settlement. There was no random sample. Basically, what happened was the bank said, look, this is what we're going to pay, and you make it work. And then they set up these categories. You know, if you've gotten a modification, if you've been foreclosed upon, and you got anywhere from $300 to $125,000, which was the military. And the OCC, I am very upset with Elizabeth Warren, and I sat down with them and said, look, can you tell us how many people were affected, how the decisions were made? The banks, we said to them, the banks have already admitted wrongdoing, admitted to illegal activity. Can you tell us exactly which bank did what and how it was done? And they said no, because these are trade secrets. So in other words, what they're telling us, that criminal activity, illegal activity, that's already been admitted to by the banks. We cannot even get that information. So sure, exactly. When the gentleman said that the banks are still doing the same things, I believe him. Because, first of all, we're not getting enough information to even correct it.
You have no way of knowing otherwise.
That's right. And by the way, that gentleman that you just saw, he can't even appeal that decision. He can't appeal it. He may think that, he may look at these categories and says, look, I don't deserve a $300 check. I deserve a $100,000 check. And there's no appeal.
Okay.
What is the solution, Congressman Cummings? What would be a sensible, let's say we could get whatever we needed to get out of Congress and the administration, what would start to help?
We need to start with on this point here, we've got a monitoring bill. I have a monitoring bill where we go back and we're going to look at this settlement and actually bring some transparency to figure out exactly what went wrong and try to hopefully bring some correction to that. These people have been damaged, and so that's important. The other thing leads me to my next thing, and that is we need to, in Fannie and Freddie, we need to have principal reduction. Report just came out yesterday. It was my report. I asked the CBO, independent agency, to tell us exactly what affects principal. Based on what the information that he has presented us, that is to the Congress, his own research says there should be principal reduction.
So that's my question to you that we were talking about off the air. Mel Watt, Congressman Mel Watt,
great choice,
has been nominated to succeed Ed DeMarco, who has been in that position presiding over Fannie and Freddie for several years, 3 or 4 years.
That's right.
And it seems that both sides
But I think Mel Watt is the answer. I do believe it. I believe that by having him appointed and letting him take an objective look at principal reduction, I think that breaks the logjam. He may have some difficulties. I read Senator Corker's response to Mel Watt, but I say to Senator Corker, hold on. I want Mel Watt treated the same way that they treated Kerry. This man is a distinguished Yale law school graduate, small businessman, financial services committee member, and one of the most well-respected members of the Congress. And so I'm hopeful that this appointment will make a difference.
Yeah, Bill, actually let it go through. Go ahead.
But don't you think that what's really happening in the Senate is the senators think that their view of the crisis ought to be what prevails, even with the president's own appointees? So they don't want Mel Watt because he agrees with you that the banks need to pay something here and they need to take the haircut on principal reduction rather than blame everything on Fannie and Freddie, which is the Republican point of view of the Senate.
Well, you know what? The Congress has got to wake up and start helping our constituents, and that's what people are concerned about. The very thing that you talked about, guns, same thing. People say, wait a minute, what about us? What about the constituents? And I think this is a perfect example. We've got to move off of it, and hopefully with Mel Watt, people will say, wait a minute, here's a practical fella who's brilliant, who has a history of reaching across the aisle, is not a bomb thrower, and I know that and a man who comes up with practical solutions. So
I know you've known Joe for a long time. I've known you for about 6 years, and your demeanor seems...
No, I've never discouraged.
Okay.
As long as there's breath in my body, I'm never discouraged.
Okay.
Because I do believe, Mika, that there has to be people like me and others, and many Democrats and others, who come out, and we have to push back on some of this stuff. Other than that, you get rolled over, period. As a society, somebody has to say this is wrong. Somebody has to speak for the people that I see in my neighborhood. I live in the inner city of Baltimore, and I see the people that don't have jobs. I see the people that are losing their homes. Every day, somebody's got to speak for them, and here I am. I volunteer.
All right, come back soon.
I'll be happy to. I'm excited.
Bring it to the table. Congressman Elijah Cummings, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good to see you.